Okay, so we need to expand this expression. Now it's two brackets multiplied by each other, and we're going to have to expand it by multiplying each term in this bracket separately by each term in this bracket. So we're going to have to do 4x times 3x, 4x times 1, minus 3 times 3x, and minus 3 times 1. Okay, now, so we start off 4x multiplied by 3x, and then plus, and then we do 4x multiplied by 1, 4x multiplied by 1, and then plus, now be careful, don't forget the sign, minus 3 times 3x, and then plus minus 3 times 1. Now let's multiply out these individual terms. Now 4x times 3x is the same as 4 times 3 times x, because it doesn't matter what order we multiply in. 4 times 3 is 12, and then x times x is x squared. Plus, now 4x times 1 is just 4x. Now, minus 3 times x. Well, minus 3 times 3 is minus 9x. And then minus 3 times 1 is just minus 3. Right, now, what we have to do now is something called collect like terms. And we need to do that to simplify the expression, because we don't just have to expand it, we have to simplify it. Now, collecting like terms means we need to collect all the x squared terms together, we need to collect all the x terms together, and we need to collect all the terms which are just numbers together. So looking at it, you should see that we've only got one x squared term, so that's just going to stay as it is. We've only got one pure number term. However, we've got two terms that are x's, so these we're going to have to collect together. Collect like terms. Okay, when we do that, we get 12x squared, just stays as it is. Now 4x plus minus 9x is the same as 4x minus 9x, which is just either plus minus 5x or just minus 5x. And plus minus 3 is just minus 3. And there, we've done it. That's the final answer. Now, the question doesn't ask us to do this, but we will need to do this in future, so it's probably worth thinking a little bit more about this expression. Because it's got an x squared in it, it's a quadratic. Okay. Now, any expression that's got a squared as the highest term, we call a quadratic expression. Now I could, if I wanted to, I could define y as equal to 4x minus 3 times by 3x plus 1. What I've done now is I've now defined a function, and I could call that y, or I could call it f of x. And it might be useful to know what the graph of that function will look like. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, when we've multiplied out the expression, we can see that we've got a positive x squared. Okay, because it's a positive x squared, the shape of the graph will be like a smiley face, like that. Okay, so if I try and sketch the graph, then let's have a look. That and that, and then that's going to be our x-axis, that's going to be our y or our f of x axis. It's going to be a smiley face, but where is it? Is it going to be up near the top? Is it going to be down near the bottom? Is it going to cross over the x-axis? Well, in order to find that out, we can actually write some equations which we need to solve. So, to find where the graph crosses over the x-axis, where it crosses over the x-axis, we know that y will equal 0. So what that means is we can solve the equation 3x plus 1 equals 0. Right, so y equals 4x minus 3 times 3x plus 1 is a function. If we make that equal to a number, then it becomes an equation. And to solve this equation, we're multiplying two things together, which means that one of them must be equal to 0. So we've got either 4x minus 3 equals 0, in which case x, and I'll call it x1, is going to be 3/4, or we've got 3x plus 1 equals 0, in which case x, and I'll call it x2, is minus 1/3. So that tells us the graph is going to go through the point where x is 3/4 and through the point where x is minus 1/3. Now we know it's a smiley face, so it's going to be difficult to draw, but it's going to look something like, okay, I haven't drawn it great, but it'll look something like that. Now the only other point which we might want to put on our graph is this point here. That's the point where the graph crosses the y-axis. At this point here, x equals 0. So we can find that point by putting x equals 0, substituting x equals 0 into our expression. So we've got 12x squared minus 5x minus 3. If x equals 0, that's just going to be minus 3. And there we've got a sketch of the graph. The question doesn't ask us for that, but it is something which you will need to be able to do.